Yo, what's good? Amateur Lore here, and today we're back with some more insane March Madness runs from some of the most unlikely teams. I planned on dropping a video like this days ago, but my laptop broke and I lost like 3 projects I had already finished. I swear, my hard drive was full of heat-seeking missiles, but it is what it is. I'm grateful and blessed to have you all tuning in every week to look at some underdog stories with me. That's good enough. But yeah, I just had to get that off my chest. A like and a sub would be smacko. These videos take a while to make, especially with my laptop receiving a concussion. Anyway, let's jump right in. Alright, so the first team we're going to be taking a look at in this video is the Oral Roberts Golden Eagles. And I'm not gonna lie, I had no idea this program played ball in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I think that has to be one of my favorite parts about college basketball is that there's so many teams all across the country. Anyway, so for this program's basketball lore, there really isn't much, as in the Golden Eagles' short history of playing high-level basketball, this school has only made the men's basketball tournament 7 times, with their deepest run besides the season we're covering today coming during the 1973/1974 college basketball season. Besides that outlier of a season, this program has failed to put together any type of deep March Madness run, which is why when Oral Roberts managed to put together a pretty incredible season during the 2020/21 college basketball season, it really took the college basketball world by storm. Looking through some of the Summit League men's basketball preseason predictions, most outlets had Oral Roberts actually finishing second in their conference behind South Dakota State. And I'm not 100% sure, but I'm almost positive that the Summit League is one of those conferences where if you don't win the conference tournament, there's pretty much no chance that you'll make the tournament. So if the Golden Eagles finish second like they were predicted to, they would most likely be spending March in New York at the NIT. But let's keep it a rice and bean. We wouldn't be making a video if that was the case. So with that short little intro out of the way, let's take a look at some of the dudes making moves in Oklahoma. Leading the program in his 4th year up to that point, we got Coach Paul Mills. And this is a quick side note, but he's currently the coach at Wichita State. Shout out to him, bro's moving up the coaching ladder. Sliding over to the guards, we got the team's leading scorer and the nation's leading scorer, Max Asmus, averaging a nasty 24, 3-3. RJ Glasper finishing the season with 11, 3-2. And to round out the guards, Kareem Thompson, who'd put up 8-3. Like most smaller schools, the Golden Eagles were a little smaller when it came to the big men, as they were not really rocking a center, just a bunch of forwards. Which takes us to the team's second leading scorer, Kevin O'Banner, who'd average 18-9. And finally, to round out the starting 5, Deshang Weaver, who'd put up 6-2. So for the Oral Roberts 2020/2021 college basketball regular season, there isn't really much to cover, as this team would be the definition of mid, as the Golden Eagles would be sitting with a record of 11-10 about 2/3 through the season. I will mention that Oral Roberts would manage to crawl their way into the Summit League Conference tournament with a 2-game winning streak, as they would end their regular season with a record of 13-10. So to open up the Summit League men's basketball tournament, the Golden Eagles were pretty much in playoff mode already, as they couldn't afford to lose, and in their first game against North Dakota, they would play with a sense of urgency that hadn't been really seen all year, taking down the Fighting Hawks 76-65, in a matchup that the Golden Eagles led comfortably in for majority of the contest. Oral Roberts was literally running the Dakota's gauntlet, because their next matchup in the tourney would be against South Dakota State, and if you're wondering where the highlights are, I'm right with you. But for a lot of these smaller schools, finding some of their film can be nearly impossible. But yeah, against South Dakota State, this game would be a banger, that would see the Golden Eagles up for majority of the game, but the Jackrabbits would slowly climb their way back, tying it up at 88 all with less than 9 seconds left on the clock. When off of a missed jumper, the Golden Eagles forward Kevin O'Banner would grab the offensive rebound, putting it back up at the buzzer to win the game 90-88. Sending Oral Roberts to the championship game, they would face off against North Dakota State, with the trip to the men's basketball tournament on the line. Would the Golden Eagles be booking a flight to Indiana or heading back to Oklahoma to resume classes?
Diesel caught on the baseline. Cruiser. Another chance. Like he's going to screen and then slip out. Oh, big shot. Rocky Cruiser with 32 points. The paint, floater, strong drive. And the senior leader has made the difference-making plays. 13 seconds to go. 1 point, Oral Roberts lead. Breezel, spin, head fake, blocked! Lots of...
If you couldn't tell by those highlights, we were really locked in. No cap, I have no idea what gym they were playing at. To me, it looks like the local Salvation Army or the rec center we'd all go to on the weekend to play some pickup ball. But regardless of how the gym looked, them boys were still balling. So in the Summit League Championship game, Oral Roberts would come out on top in a nail-biter 75-72. Both teams would go back and forth in the final minute, as every time North Dakota State would hit a big shot to tie the game or bring the score within 1, the Golden Eagles would always respond, eventually closing out the game to punch their ticket to prom for the first time in 12 years. Also, huge shout out to the Golden Eagles star and the nation's leading scorer, guard Max Asmus, who dropped a team high 23 with 7 dimers. Oral Roberts was making the trip to Indiana all the way from Oklahoma for round 1 of the men's basketball tournament. The Golden Eagles were obviously not coming into March Madness with high seeding, as they would be given the 15th seed, which sounds about right for a 16-10 Summit League champion, and would be matched up against the 2nd seeded Ohio State Buckeyes. The Golden Eagles were 15-point dogs to the Buckeyes, which means nobody was picking them to win unless you're a parlay pirate like me and you're trying to flip $10 into 100K. I'm telling y'all, one day I'm going to turn a dime into generational wealth. But until then, back to the video. Anyway, Oral Roberts already knew about how much they were expected to lose and honestly couldn't care less, as they were more worried about winning a tournament game for the first time since the 1973/74 season. Ohio State versus Oral Roberts, who would be spending a couple more nights in the Hoosier State, the Golden Eagles or the Buckeyes.
They have grown accustomed to playing without Young, who's been in and out of the lineup. We're underway in West Lafayette on the campus of Purdue.
It'll be fun to watch them here in person.
On the cut, easy bucket.
Essential for the Golden Eagles against the taller, stronger Ohio State club. And I told you, this guy can shoot.
Stretches during the season where they look like a potential Final Four team. Jumper goes down for 20 finger roll. Liddell, nice look underneath. Jallo finishes points over the last 7.5 minutes. A. Smith loses it. The jumper goes.
Cuts, and the others have to be ready and available to knock down shots. Great pass, great finish.
At some point, this is going to.
Just watching him play, his energy, his confidence, not afraid at all. And on cue.
Again! Been in Indianapolis for a while. A lot of time in your room. Liddell banks it up. 3 wins before falling to Illinois in the championship game. A 3. Kavanaugh. Driving kick, ball movement. Arns got the defender to lean. Book it. A 3.
Bad back, but good defense on that possession.
No look. Liddell fills the lane and scores off the window. Washington looks in that direction. Oh, really? He's got 13 today. And Ohio State goes in front by 1. Oh, better!
The timeout there for Ohio State. Executing on both ends of the floor, defensively and offensively.
A. Smith. Oh, yeah. Washington inside the arc. Book it. Second attempt for O'Banner. Tie game. Washington crosses off the window. Yes, sir. And a foul. Down to 15 seconds left. Liddell got a 3. State has no timeouts remaining. 8 seconds left. They trail by 3. Orange. The jumper doesn't go off the window. Knocked to the outside. Washington off the mark, and it's over. It's March. Expect the unexpected.
Oral Roberts would upset the second-seeded Ohio State Buckeyes in the first round of the tournament in overtime, 75-72, to give the Golden Eagles their first tournament win since the 1973/74 college basketball season. When taking a look at this matchup, you notice that this game was extremely close the whole way through, with neither team really being able to run away with the game in the second half, which would result in overtime. And from there, Oral Roberts would just play more mistake-free basketball, which would lead to their win, advancing the Golden Eagles to the next round of the men's basketball tournament. Before we move on, major shout out to the Oral Roberts forward Kevin O'Banner. He would lead this team in scoring, dropping a 30 bomb, and trust me, the Golden Eagles needed every bit of it to secure the W. Oral Roberts was now set to face off against my favorite college basketball team, the 7th-seeded Florida Gators, in the second round of the men's basketball tournament. Nothing was really changing in this game, as once again the Golden Eagles would be 9-point dogs to the powerhouse Florida Gators. As I already mentioned, this was nothing new for Oral Roberts. They had already been the dog, and they were playing extremely loose, putting more of the pressure on the Florida Gators to execute this game. But just being more loose wasn't going to be good enough. The Golden Eagles would need to put together an elite performance if they wanted to become only the second 15th seed up to that point to ever make it to the Sweet 16 in NCAA men's basketball history.
A good year was 2017 for Florida. Second place finish in the SEC in the regular season. Mike White finishing as the SEC Coach of the Year. And the tip goes to that in the last meeting. Virginia Tech, a 75-70 victory here for Florida, and a ring to the corner. Speaking of logo, A. Smith. O'Banner for 3.
The Gators are trying to take away his jump shot, but he has the ability right now to get to the paint, and they talked about his freshman year. The guys off the bounce that can get into the lane.
Castleton, the transfer out of Michigan, he's kind of found new life back in his home state.
Quick. With a jump shot like that, it makes it tough. Good pass.
Oh my! He's got that elite motor and athleticism. Kind of fits that mold that Mike White has always wanted. How about this shooter, though? Castleton, can it lead to a Gator break?
That's good basketball right there.
Oh, and Oral Roberts in it.
Once again, deep.
I thought you were a corner guy.
Funny when I play with
O'Banner lets it fly. They needed that.
Beautiful move.
Naismith. And locked right behind him with 15. O'Banner for three. Count the bucket. Mills and company do it once again tonight to punch their Sweet 16 ticket against Florida. O'Banner wants to take it inside, and he does take it inside.
Giving the Golden Eagles a little trouble, but somebody's going to get an open look.
From the Roberts, he's trying to hunt down that three. This is for the tie. It rims out. Florida chasing it down. Lewis for the tie. That's not there. Oral Roberts, the 15 seed. The upset makers are history makers. And Oral Roberts is in the Sweet 16.
The Golden Eagles would take down my Florida Gators 81-78. And yes, while this loss hurt a lot to have to revisit and watch those highlights over again, I did manage to find some clarity in knowing that while I'm recording this video, my Florida Gators are currently the 3rd ranked team in the country and looking like they'll be competing for the #1 seed going into March, so I hope I don't jinx them. This is amateur lore a little bit into the future, and actually I did jinx them because they lost to the Georgia Bulldogs, so we're probably not going to get the #1 seed. Hopefully we do though, I really hope we do. Anyway, back to the game at hand. I have no idea how Oral Roberts managed to pull off this win because when looking at the shooting splits and rebounding stats, Florida dominated those categories, shooting 55% from the field and out-rebounding the Golden Eagles 32-24. But nevertheless, Oral Roberts would still come out on top, and to me, a lot of that has to do with how well the Golden Eagles would shoot the 3-ball and Kevin O'Banner, as he would once again have a monster performance, dropping 28 with 11 boards, which definitely played a huge role in Oral Roberts securing the win and making college basketball history, as well as becoming only the 2nd 15 seed in tournament history to make the Sweet 16 up to that point. Alright, so Oral Roberts had already taken down an SEC team in the men's basketball tournament to send them to the Sweet 16, where guess what? They would face off against another SEC team, the 3rd seeded Arkansas Razorbacks. The Golden Eagles were 11-point dogs once again, but I mean, that's honestly expected. But here we were, the Golden Eagles looking to make history by becoming the first 15 seed up to that point to ever make the Elite Eight. Could they get the job done, or would they fall just short of etching this program's name in the history books forever?
It's the regional semifinals, the Sweet 16. As the 15th seed, Oral Roberts Golden Eagles play the 3rd seeded Arkansas Razorbacks. And away we go to find out who's going to be against Baylor in the Elite Eight.
When Naismith gives up the ball, Davis is trying to do everything he can to keep him from getting it back.
Naismith's 3.
The Bankers Life Fieldhouse, the teams can't make shots.
Jurgens 3, right down the middle.
Green, much better than that.
Long shot. Devo Davis back to Tate. The other way they come. Last time in the tournament, 2017 for Arkansas. Corkscrew jump shot on top for Thompson.
He's got no place to go. That was really good defense.
Kareem Thompson, 6 in the tournament, 7, and he's already got 11. Smith a screen. Open shot here. Tate. And knees and hips. Got free and he hit. Sills, right in the paint, penetrates and gets a problem.
Hasn't been rebounding your defense. It's been their offense.
Jalen Williams the foul. And
Roberts has had tremendous success on the offense so far too.
Watch his 3. Something to think about. But right now, Arkansas really charging back hard. It's a 3. Makes the move. Naismith with the defense. Contorting and
they didn't convert that one.
Naismith trying to tie. And ties.
Take the ball on the perimeter and drive.
O'Banner, the fake, the drive, and count it. That's a foul. We're approaching a minute and a half to play. 6 lead changes.
This is the matchup they want. The 6'6" Tate against the 6'1" Ace.
It's Davis for the lead. For Thompson will inbound. Naismith against Davis. Naismith for the Elite Eight. Arkansas has won.
Oral Roberts would fall just short to the Arkansas Razorbacks in the Sweet 16, 72-70. But if I'm being real, the Golden Eagles look like the better team for 2/3 of the game, as Oral Roberts would even have a 10-point lead at one point in the second half, but the Razorbacks would slowly start to crawl their way back into the game, tying it up and taking the lead back with about 5 minutes left in the game. And from there, both teams would exchange the lead until the Razorbacks would seal the deal, hitting the game-winning jumper with less than 4 seconds on the clock, putting it into the Oral Roberts magical March Madness run. But let's end this section on a positive note. What the Oral Roberts Golden Eagles managed to pull off this year was amazing, as this is without a doubt their best season since the 1973/74 college basketball season. And no matter what, they're still only one of 4 15 seeds in March Madness history to make the Sweet 16. Leaving Oklahoma, we head over to the state that I reside in, Florida, to talk about the next team up in this video, the Florida State Seminoles. Wait, what? This can't be right. What the hell? There's no way I'm covering anything positive that has to do with the Noles. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna swallow my pride for the content. This run that we're about to cover from the Noles is pretty gnarly, actually. So for Florida State's basketball lore, it's pretty clear that the basketball program isn't anywhere near the football team's level, but the Noles have still had some success on the hardwood, making it to 1 Final Four, 3 Elite Eights, and a handful of Sweet 16s, as well as having a top 5 NBA draft pick in Scotty Barnes not even 5 years ago. And this is random, but I got a chance to hoop with Scotty when he was in like high school at this neighborhood I used to go to on the weekend to play ball at a couple times. He would always be out there with his boys hooping. I just thought I'd share that with y'all. Back to the Seminoles' history though. Overall, as a basketball program, they've been pretty decent and had a couple of chances to break through to reach their second Final Four from about 2016 to 2021, but would come up just short, which is a terrible segue to the team we're going to be looking at for this video, because they came from that little window I mentioned, the 2017/18 Florida State Seminoles, which this team, by the way, had the lowest seeding during this window, but made it the farthest. Man, you gotta love college basketball. It's strange as hell. Alright, so going back in time and looking through some of the 2017/18 ACC preseason predictions, the Florida State Seminoles were actually expected to be about average this year, as most outlets had them finishing 8th in the ACC behind in no particular order Virginia Tech, Virginia, Louisville, Miami, Notre Dame, North Carolina, and Duke, which in my interpretation meant that the Noles were expected to maybe be an on-the-bubble team, which honestly kind of shocks me considering how good they were the previous season, as Florida State would go 25-8 and enter the tourney with a 3rd seed. And I know they would lose their leading scorer to the NBA draft in Dwayne Bacon, but they were still returning some decent production, so I really don't get the low preseason prediction. But who really cares, because preseason predictions are about as accurate as Mel Kiper's mock draft. With that little short intro out of the way, let's take a look at some of the Jits making noise in Tallahassee. Leading the program in his 16th year up to that point, easily the best basketball coach in Florida State history, Leonard Hamilton. And this is a side note, but he is still coaching for the Noles as we speak. Moving over to the starting 5, this team rocked a bunch of different lineups throughout this year, so I'm going to go with the one they rolled out the most, which takes us to the guards, starting with Brian Angola, who'd finished the season putting up 12, 3, and 3, CJ Walker averaging 8 and 2, and finally future NBA guard Terrence Mann, who'd averaged 12, 5, and 2. Rotating over to the big men, starting with the forward, we got the team's leading scorer, Phil Kofer, who'd put up 13 and 5, and finally to round out the starting 5, the 7-foot center Chris Kamanje averaging 6 and 4. Florida State would roar out of the gate to start the 2017/18 college basketball season, starting the year off 9-0, which included a win over my 5th-ranked Florida Gators. At this point in the season, Florida State was looking like a serious contender to receive a high seeding and would even sneak their way into the top 25 before conference play would start, being ranked at the 24th spot in the country. Unfortunately, the Seminoles would start to come back down to earth as they would begin conference play with an 11-1 record, but nearly halfway through it would be sitting with a record of 16-6 with a conference record of 5-5 going into February. The Noles were still in a prime position to make the tournament and have a decent seeding. They would just need to finish off the season strong and win some of their big games, as they still had 2nd-ranked Virginia and the 11th-ranked Clemson Tigers on their schedule. Florida State would split those big games, losing against Virginia and taking down the Clemson Tigers. However, even though they'd pull off the huge upset against Clemson, the Noles would sputter out, finishing off the year with a 500 record in the conference, as they would go 9-9 and 20-10 overall. And to make things even worse, in the first game of the ACC tournament, Florida State would lose to Louisville, putting their final record on the regular season at 20-11. Somehow, Florida State would be handed the 9th seed, and if you ask me, I guess it would be because of this team's 3 top 15 wins, as they would take down the 5th-ranked Florida Gators, 12th-ranked North Carolina, and the 11th-ranked Clemson Tigers. No matter what though, the Noles were in the dance, and whatever happened during the regular season was behind them. All that mattered now was their matchup against the 8th-seeded Missouri Tigers, led by future NBA champion Michael Porter Jr. Okay, so I was going to show some of the highlights from this game, but there really isn't any need to because the Florida State Seminoles would come out and dominate the Missouri Tigers, winning against them 67-54. The Noles were actually up by 22 going into halftime and were pretty much playing ball in cruise control for the remainder of the second half, pulling out a comfortable win against Missouri and moving the Noles on to the second round of the men's basketball tournament, where they would be matched up against the first-seeded Xavier Musketeers with a trip to the Sweet 16 on the line. Xavier versus Florida State, who'd be making the trip to Los Angeles for the next leg of March Madness.
It's a big surprise when you're on a team that goes 11 deep. If this was a team that was only 6 deep, you say, oh, maybe, okay. But they got 11 guys, and they come as Seminoles in transition. Ryan Angola for 3, it's good, and a hot Angola shakes it. Angola, deep 3, it's good. Hey, the graduate from Wisconsin, that was a quick trigger. Everyone last night. I think watch him on the defensive end, that's where it's really going to show. Ball Scruggs for 3 is good. The senior Sean O'Mara. And now Scruggs racing up ahead, lays it in. 3-ball for Savoy is good, showing Obiago, not anymore. 7 on the shot clock, Forrest over O'Mara for 2, just 2 of 13. Angola launches and hits from deep. Xavier, the top seed in the West, leads Florida State by 5. Gooden gets to the hole and finishes. As far as this is transition, this is what Florida State wants. This is what they want. Savoy, 3 is good. That's what but the Seminole helped on the drive, covered up to his man, and made the steal. Blew it for three. Go! Struggling, Walker. 3 out, 1 for 5. Scruggs to Blewett for Xavier. Jones the latest. 3 for Man. Gets it to 4 fouls. And Leonard Hamilton keeps him in the game. Yeah, I would. Man off the glass. Two things in the last 2 minutes. Scruggs. Forrest going around. Gates. Oh, what a move. Drives. Blewett with 2. This pass is stolen by Forrest. Man joining Forrest. Forrest on the way. And no foul! Angola driving. Tough shot, no good. Captain Oh, what a put! Angola driving. Canner got a hand on it. Captain Blewett drives in and it's stripped away. Here come the Seminoles in transition. Forrest. Savoy for 3. It's good! Giving the referees a piece of his mind. Scruggs' pass is picked off. Forrest has it. And another one is done. Xavier knocked out by Florida State.
Florida State would pull off the huge upset, taking down the first-seeded Xavier Musketeers 75-70, sending the Noles to the Sweet 16. When taking a look back at this game, early on both teams looked even, as neither team in the first half would really be able to take control of the game, as the score going into halftime would be Xavier 34, Florida State 32. But to start the second half, the Musketeers would start to show the Noles why they were the number 1 seed coming into the tourney, as they would take a 10-point lead early on in the second half and would keep the 10-point lead over the Noles until when, with about 6 minutes left in the game, Florida State would start to crawl their way back, going on a little run of their own to close the game out, finally tying the matchup at 68-all with about less than 3 minutes left in the game. From there, the Noles would play elite defense and knock down their free throws, closing the game out and punching their ticket to the Sweet 16, where they would be matched up against the 4th-seeded Gonzaga Bulldogs.
Here come the Seminoles. Forrest, hold on! He makes a move, defended by C.J. Walker. Finally,
12 deep in this first half.
C got a couple in this one. Outside, Savoy, 3. And rejected inside by Phil Coker. Man at the other end. Angola. Thought, maneuvers, 15-footer. The throw, Man. Angola into Nelson. Slammed in by Coker.
The travel from Florida State to LA. All right, you got to factor in that. That's a 5.5-hour flight.
It'll be the Seminoles and the Wolverines for the right to go.
The Seminoles versus the Bulldogs would be completely lopsided as Florida State would come to play in the Sweet 16 matchup, winning 75-60. The Noles would open up the game being very aggressive, getting to the line early and forcing the issue. And this style of ball would pay off, as they would be up 9 going into the second half. And from there, they would keep up their aggressive play, as every time Gonzaga would make a run, and trust me, they would make a bunch of them trying to cut the lead to less than 4, but every time they would, Florida State would always hold their ground, having a response every time, eventually running away with the game with less than 5 minutes left in the game, advancing Florida State to the Elite 8 for the first time since the 1992/93 college basketball season, where they were set to face off against the 3rd-seeded Michigan Wolverines with the trip to the Final Four on the line. Now, we have to go back like 20 years to find the last time Florida State had made the Elite 8, but for the Final Four, we have to go back even further, as the Seminoles haven't made the Final Four since the 1971/72 college basketball season, and tournament seeding didn't even exist back then, so it's been a while. But this 2017/18 Florida State squad was built a little different, as they had already overcame the odds to even make it this far, so if any Noles squad could do it, it was this one. Only one team stood in their way of that goal, the Wolverines. Florida State versus Michigan. Which team would be headed to Texas for the Final Four?
Officials tonight, terrific crew. Randy McCall, 15th consecutive regional, 4 Final Fours. Keith Kimball, 2nd regional final, and John Gaffney with on top to Wagner, who Dan was just talking about. Had a terrific game the other night with 21, and a drive inside players on this Florida State team that stands 6'6" or taller. They rely on that size, like with Kelly inside. MJ Walker swinging it around. There's a Savoy 3.
Intercepted that pass to Robinson, and then they got all ball mixed up.
It's a Savoy 3. Man. MJ Walker for the good move and a jam. Trent Forrest outside. Cover 3.
Down to the post.
Matthews step back triple. Beautiful. 2 teams ranked in the top 10 in terms of their field goal defense. And Cofer is down. Angola inside. Cofer is there. TJ Walker is on Simpson. Outside. Wagner. Gopher is on Matthews.
Oh, nice fade.
One in high school. A drive and a feed. Robinson free. Oh! Seminoles down. Savoy thinking three, taking three. Got it! Oh, what a lift from fake. Savoy can't hit. C.J. Walker three. Gopher. That's all she wrote. Winning a school record 32nd game sends the Michigan Wolverines to the Final Four.
Florida State would fight extremely hard in the Elite Eight against the third-seeded Michigan Wolverines, but would come up just short 58-54. And to be honest, it's kind of amazing that the final score ended so close, because with about 2 minutes left in the game, Michigan Wolverine Duncan Robinson would hit a huge three to put Michigan up 54-44. But the Noles would not give up. They would scratch and claw their way back, making the game only a 3-point deficit with a chance to tie, but would come up short. Let's end this entry on a positive note though. This 2017/18 Florida State basketball squad would easily be one of the best programs this team has fielded in the last 20 plus years, and will without a doubt be a March Madness run the Nole faithful will never forget. Although I will say as a Gator fan, we have too many Elite Eights to count, so we'd never, but still a pretty good run for the Seminole standard. Bet. So leaving Tally, we hop on the turnpike and head down to my area of the state, South Florida. Talk about the next team in this video, the 2022/23 Florida Atlantic Owls. Man, there's two things I have to get off my chest. One, I wish I would have gone to an Owls game during this magical year they had, because they were playing some high-level basketball and it's only like a 1 or 2 hour drive to their campus from me. And two, I actually went to middle school with a dude who would end up playing basketball for the Florida Atlantic Owls, but he played a couple of years back. He was not a part of the Owl team that I'm looking at for this video. And I know there's going to be a comment saying, this dude Amateur Lore swears he knows all of these athletes, and to that I say, I don't know them. Like, I've just been around them once or twice. And I'm also from South Florida. What can I say? We really have some of the best athletes in the whole entire world. Real spill, even some of our crackheads were former all-county athletes. Take some of their rock and you'll find out why dude was in states for the 100. Dang, I got off topic, so back to the Owls. For this program's lore, there really isn't much at all, as Florida Atlantic in their very short history of playing high-level basketball, up to the 2022/23 college basketball season, had only made the men's basketball tournament one time, and had never won a tournament game, which definitely plays a huge part in why when the Owls did what they did in the 2023 men's basketball tournament, it shocked the entire college basketball world, including me. And can you blame me? Because going back in time and taking a look at some of the 2022/23 Conference USA preseason predictions, most outlets had Florida Atlantic finishing 5th behind, in no particular order, Middle Tennessee, North Texas, Western Kentucky, and UAB. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty positive that Conference USA isn't getting like more than 2 bids at the most. So if the Owls actually finished where they were predicted, then they wouldn't be spending March dancing. But we all know they do the exact opposite of that. So let's take a look at some of the key figures a part of this 2022/23 Florida Atlantic basketball squad. Leading the program in his 5th year up to that point, we got Coach Dusty May. And shout out to him, Brody parlayed his stay in Boca into a big-time job at Michigan. FAU would rock a bunch of different lineups this year, so I'm going to go with the one that rolled out the most. Also, they would start the game with 4 guards most of the time. So starting with the leading scorer, we got John L. Davis, who'd average 13-5-1, Nick Boyd putting up 8-4-2, Elijah Martin, who'd average 13-5-1, and you know I had to show Brody some extra love because he's currently a Gator and is a huge part of why our team is so successful this year. And to round out the guards, Brian Greenlee, who'd finished the season putting up 7-2-2. Finally, to finish up the starting 5, the 7-foot Russian Vladislav Golden, averaging 10-6, and I probably pronounced his name wrong. I'll put it up on screen, sorry. Also, before we move on, major shout out to Juan Carlo Rosado, and for no other reason than the fact that he went to the same high school as my dad. That's lit. Alright, so there isn't really much to cover from the regular season for the FAU Owls, as they would be extremely dominant, going 9-1 to begin the year before conference play would start, with a couple of big wins coming during that stretch, most notably against my Florida Gators. Why is everybody beating up on my Gators during this video? Sheesh. The Florida Atlantic Owls would carry over that momentum to start the season off into their conference part of the schedule, as going into the month of February, the Owls would be sitting with an insane record of 21-1, being undefeated in conference play, riding a 20-game winning streak going into their matchup against my little sister Yami's school, the UAB Blazers. UAB would end the Owls' winning streak, taking them down 86-77, but Florida Atlantic wouldn't dwell on that loss for too long, as they would bounce back and play high-level basketball to close out the regular season, finishing it off with a 28-3 record right before the Conference USA tournament would start. Florida Atlantic would keep the high-level play going into the tournament, as they would easily defeat Western Kentucky 75-51. Against Middle Tennessee in the semis, this game would be a lot closer, but FAU would hold on late to secure the W 68-65, set up a rematch in the championship game with the team that ended their winning streak earlier in the year, the Blazers. Yeah, they would get smacked by the Owls, as FAU would win against UAB 78-56, securing the Conference USA title, but more importantly, guaranteeing them a spot in the big dance, even though I'm pretty sure they were a lock once the regular season ended, but you never know, better safe than sorry. Florida Atlantic would enter March Madness with a record of 31-3, and that somehow would only be good enough to earn them the 9th seed, which I don't get. You'd think a 31-win conference champion would get a little bit more love, but I don't think the Owls really cared. They were just happy to be playing big-time basketball for the first time in nearly 20 years, as they would make the trip from South Florida to the Buckeye State for the first round of the men's basketball tournament, where they would be matched up against the 8th seeded Memphis Tigers. This game was a coin flip, as neither team was the overwhelming favorite. Who'd be staying in Ohio a little longer, the Owls or the Tigers?
Just saw in a lot of ways.
Davis for three. And tip right back to him. Davis comes in, and he's on the against Houston in the American Conference Championship game. Greenlee, another three.
The thing that we're going to see, too, with FAU, they have the #1 bench in the country in terms of scoring. Like a team that shoots the three that well, let's see what wins out.
Witherspoon hits the three.
This is when they're not running, and they're not a bad half-court team, but they much prefer to be out in the open court.
Rosado turnaround and a foul. Boyd has to put one up. He does. The three is good.
This is where Memphis is at their best.
Jonathan Lawson for three. Doesn't get the bounce. McCadden the foul. Easy play and a finish by Martin. Franklin for three, and Memphis is... Hardaway catch and shoot three. It's good. Career high is 15. Davis, yes.
Oh, he's shooting that.
Davis for three. Yes.
Has a son, Kendrick Jr., who was at the game today, that he knows would want to spend a lot more time with his grandfather.
Greenlee on the drive, off glass for two.
With a guy who fouls, why not?
Lomax just inside the line, knocks it down. The Auburn Tigers, and that's why Andy gave you a shot, of the Memphis Tiger. Nicely done, Andrew. With Bill Thayer on produced.
We played them in the Final Four in 1985.
The three with the shot clock winding down, and Boyd getting closer to crunch time.
Greenlee, he just can't come back in.
Lawson will take a three. And he gets the back. Can Davis answer? He can! Davis, another three is good. Otto on him. Davis going to try to take him. Puts him a wild shot, no good. Offensive rebound. Williams, count it, and one! Now Boyd with 5 on the shot clock. Boyd off balance, 2, no. Tipped up and in!
Got to get the right guy shooting the ball, and that's not the right guy.
McCadden, short. The tip is good! Here's Boyd. 5 seconds left. Boyd drives, scores! With 2.5. Lomax at midcourt. McCadden doesn't get it off, and the Owls win it!
Florida Atlantic versus the Memphis Tigers would be one of the best games during the first round of the men's basketball tournament, as both teams would battle hard and go back and forth in the first half, as neither team would assert their dominance over the other. And to end the first half, going into halftime, the Memphis Tigers would hold a small lead of 35-31. During the second half, for a good portion of it, the Tigers would look like the better squad and would hold on to the lead, but the Owls would not go away, staying within reach and finally tying it up on a clutch three from Janelle Davis that would tie the game at 60-all with about 3 minutes left. From there, both teams would throw haymakers, but FAU would end with a knockout, as Nick Boyd would make the game-winning layup, securing the dub 66-65, giving the Owls their first tournament win in program history, advancing them to the next round where they would face off against the 16th seeded Fairleigh Dickinson Knights, who were just coming up off of a massive upset against the #1 seeded Purdue Boilermakers. For all intents and purposes, Florida Atlantic had been blessed, because now going into their round 2 game, they were 16-point favorites. Could FAU keep the momentum rolling with a win against the Knights? And if they were to win, could they take down the Vols in the Sweet 16 after that?
Aggressively attack the FDU pressure.
Here's Martin spinning to the hoop. Oh, what a move! These two teams are a combined 2 for 10 out of the gate. Martin for 3. That one's good.
The superior 9 guys. So you'd like to feel like you're going to wear them out at some point, too.
His tops in the NEC. Davis, nice move. Got down to 5. With Gaffney on him, Singleton over Gaffney, yes! Blajan on the baseline for 2, but couldn't get it to drop, and now numbers the other way for the Knights. Look at the cutter! Munden!
Yeah, this is not a good matchup. Roberts over Rosado. And he's been absolutely on fire here in the second. 10 points after halftime. But Janelle Davis on the wing gets in tight and knocks it down. Howells have numbers. Davis up ahead. Janelle Davis!
The biggest of them all. Here is Elijah Martin. This is what, and in the country. Again, it's Key in the corner. Other corner is good. Big game against Duke, 29. Look at Plavsic going to work. Plavsic! Key is another great defender. Extra pass. Shot fake. Now the ball's popping. Here's Boyd for three. There you go.
His hands as far as offense hard to come by.
Vescovic. Forrest dumps it down inside. Golden against Adu. Turnaround jump hook short. Golden hits the deck. He falls down a lot. Here is Davis. Florida Atlantic a chance to take the lead, and it's going to be Forrest again. He's running the break now. Weatherspoon with a shot fake. Martin, three-pointer. Down. Under 6 minutes. Boyd, quick release. And he knocks it in.
The Owls would have a scare against the Knights, but would pull out the win 78-70. The Owls star guard Janelle Davis would have a monster performance, dropping 29 buckets with 5 dimers. And his team would need every bit of this huge performance because they would actually be down by a bucket to the Knights with about less than 10 minutes in the game. And we have to remember, the Owls were like 16-point favorites coming into this matchup. But the Owls would close out the game strong, making their shots and knocking down their free throws, punching their ticket to the Sweet 16 where they would face off against the 4th-seeded Tennessee Vols. This game would be one of Florida Atlantic's best performances of the entire season, as although they would be down going into halftime against the Vols, they would dominate the second half. Well, let me not say that, because the first half of the second half, damn, that's a mouthful, would be pretty even, as both teams would go bucket for bucket. But the Owls would take over at about the 10-minute mark of the second half, knocking down their good looks while Tennessee couldn't buy a bucket, as Florida Atlantic would take a 10-point lead and never look back from there, winning against Tennessee in the Sweet 16 62-55. FAU had went from never winning a tournament game to making the Elite Eight, where they would be set to face off against one of the most exciting players I've ever had the privilege to watch, Marquise Noel of the 3rd-seeded Kansas State Wildcats. What was at stake at this game besides the trip to the Final Four? Well, if FAU somehow managed to pull off this win, they'd become only the second 9th seed in March Madness history to make the Final Four. But there's no way they could take down this well-oiled machine known as the Kansas State Wildcats, right? Their magical Cinderella March Madness run would end right here in New York, the mecca of basketball. FAU versus KSU at Madison Square Garden. Who'd be booking a flight from New York to Houston?
Mentally, toughness, and also playmaking ability.
Let's get this thing going. Florida Atlantic controls the opening tip, and Brian Greenlee. Incredible job he's done. Kansas State was picked last in the Big 12 to start the year. Keontae Johnson, early highlight, put that one on the board. Here's the lefty, Desi Sill. Giancarlo Rosado is in for Florida Atlantic. Big man number 3 in the red. Here's a 3 by Martin Zone. Kansas State does turn it over a lot as well, but only 5 against the Spartans. That's Tomlin in the corner.
On the high side and finish it at the rim.
Tomlin going right at Golden. 7-foot Russian, and Tomlin, he's got, here comes Noel and the Wildcats. He lost to Loyola Chicago in Louisville that year. Noel rises up, little man knocks it, badly sprained right ankle. What do you see, Jim?
Lateral movement is great. You see the explosion in spring. That time a little late. He did an excellent job of keeping the ball on the right-hand side of the court. So it's easier to defend.
Doesn't get going. Dangerous pass. Greenlee has it. 3 to shoot. Flyby by Carter. Said he blocks off 15 minutes every other week, and they talk about something other than basketball. One-on-one and game clock. And Noel gets the big man on him again. Bullet pass. And Sills finishes the... Yeah, give Martin that block officially. It was going to be a block either way. Martin got it first. Quick release. Gets to the middle. Nothing there for him. Elijah Martin. Step back 3 on its way. It's good. After what he did Thursday night against Michigan State in the Sweet 16, he can shoot it too. And he rains one to dunk it though. And now on the other end, Brian Greenlee. That's money. 16 games beating Michigan State 2 days ago. Tomlin gets to the cup and scores a foul.
And going free safety on that one.
Davis kicks it to Greenlee. 3-pointer. That's good.
Was able to get to him in time, and Davis able to put it on time for him.
Noel, 3-pointer. Oh, okay. Marquise, you got to call glass. Eyes on Golden. No. Davis, another rebound. Weatherspoon up ahead. He'll pull up for a 3 in transition. Laces one. Hassan now on Greenlee. Turn in the corner. Martin catch and shoot. It's good. Shout out Davis. Their star. Davis lays it in. 4. Got to go quick. Wildcats looking for a rally. That's Carter for three. He's got it. Big shot. And we got one coming down the stretch. Noel gives it up. Tomlin going strong. He lays it in. Kansas State now needs a three to tie it. Clock ticks. Noel dribbles. He's looking for someone. Masood got to put it up. And that's it. The Owls of Florida Atlantic. They are headed to the Final Four.
Gonna keep this little entry short because this video is getting way too long. I'm sorry, but I'm sure some of you at work don't mind. I know this video is killing some time for y'all. Where my truck drivers at? Drop a comment. These long videos for y'all. Anyway, the Owls would do it. They would take down the TCU Horned Frogs in one of the best games of the entire tournament, 79-76. And even though the star guard Marquise Noel would drop a 30-burger in the Elite Eight, FAU would hold on, clutching out the win with a huge stop on defense. FAU had become only the second 9th seed in March Madness history to make the Final Four. So no matter what happened from here on out, this Owls team would be immortalized forever. But yeah, F all that. The Owls wanted to make the Natty and have the honor of getting smacked by the UConn Huskies. Making the Final Four wasn't good enough. The Owls wanted to be the lone 9th seed to make the Natty. Could it be done? All they had to do was take down the 5th seeded San Diego Aztecs. With how far they had already came, I don't think it was impossible.
Try and beat him down before the defense sets.
There's the three, and the rim.
Both teams so well coached. Benson runs rim to rim, though.
And he's fouled. That's over 4 minutes. And Martin with the fade away, and they needed a bucket.
There's UConn transfer.
Here's Forrest. He just scored. Doesn't take the shot. Sets up the three.
They're packing it in.
Yeah.
Butler got the screen from Mensah and delivers. The floor. Mensah is defending as Gaffney, the former UConn. Davis was a very big influence as well on his rise. Here's a three right out of the
Diego State, but you gotta take advantage when you get in there.
Martin.
Nice screen.
Yeah, works around it. Got the opening.
Making the extra and dribble driving too. Rosado would have cleared. He's not bad at that salary.
How about what
he likes the sidestep on the step back. Can't get free.
Jefferson. Yes.
Gotta blitz it.
Well, multiple times. They've been wide open on that play.
And right back.
Tough cross. Again, the fine.
From the corner for there's Parrish with the three. Oh, and he got it. Circle. Parrish hit one a moment ago. Got another one.
And again.
6 to shoot. Ledee in the paint. Up and in.
Gotta get the guards to dribble. Rosado may have walked.
Down they go, and Martin
on the right side with a dribble handoff.
Martin in the scoring, and he does it again.
I gave up the dribble too soon.
5 to shoot. How about Alex Mensah? And off to give it up.
They left to use Davis with that dribble drive. They took it away with a counter. Now they're just going right to the elbow.
Ledee puts up the jump and over Golden. 5 to shoot. Taken on a rope, and it's blocked. Pulled down by Mensah. They have the one timeout. Are they going to take it or not? They don't have their scorers on the floor. It's Butler with 2 seconds. He's got to put it up. And he wins it. He wins it with the jumper. A San Diego State miracle. There was a guy named Chris Jenkins who made the shot. The buzzer went off as the shot was in the air. And look at this.